India is witnessing a worrying trend, whether when it comes to financial frauds or a spurt in financial and Aadhaar-related frauds. In fact, recently, a new scam is being reported by common people where cyber criminals are using fault in the newly launched Aadhaar-Enabled Payment System, wherein in the new scam, the victim won't even get a prompt such as an OTP or a link or a mail. Criminals are stealing money by accessing data and biometric details registered for Aadhaar cards. Scammers get hold of the fingerprints and the details, getting the name of the bank and account details of the victim from wherever they leave the fingerprint, and people targeted through the Aadhaar payment system are not even getting an SMS when the money is debited from their bank account. This is the latest modus operandi as far as Aadhaar-enabled payment system and a scam therein is concerned. Let's quickly get in Kanishk Gaur, CEO of India Future Foundation. Joining us on the show, also with us is Pavan, Duggal, Senior Cyber Expert. I want to come to you first, Kanishk. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us here on News 9. What are you making of the Aadhaar-enabled payment system scam? What is the scam? How does it operate? And why should we worry?
Thanks, Shweta, for having me here. See, the Aadhaar ecosystem comprises of AUA, KUA, and ASA, which typically are ecosystem partners for Aadhaar, which store the biometric. They allow the handshaking to be happen. Now, what is happening is a lot of end users, when they use Aadhaar for eKYC, they do not enable multi-factor authentication. So they do not allow multi-factor authentication to happen. So they are making themselves vulnerable. So one, the biggest issue is that people are not aware about having multi-factor authentication or cybersecurity basics. That's one concern. Second, a lot of times people sell their biometric information for certain amount of money. So people will sell their biometric information and give it for 500, 300 rupees. The third is cyber criminals. They are capturing all of this information from third parties who are working with these AUA, KUA, and ASAs, typically who are involved in lending. So any third-party lending provider would typically sell away with this information. So the biggest issue is the supply chain security of the Aadhaar ecosystem. We'll have to build out partners who are taking care of security and are not selling out data of Aadhaar ecosystem. It is one of the largest databases in this country today. If there are ecosystem partners who are now using it for lending or using it for financial literacy or financial need of common citizens, their onboarding, their KYC, the way they drive this has to be really enabled to ensure that they are not selling out the Indian consumers. So that's something. So supply chain security is the clear miss out, and government will also have to enforce strong penalties, strong regulations. If any organization is found doing this, then they could be penalized, be put behind bars. So that's one of the key things. They have the Aadhaar Act. Now, UIDAI need to use the Aadhaar Act today to ensure if any organization which is part of the Aadhaar ecosystem is found using some of these aspects, they could be penalized or put behind bars. So that's something which is there. So using the Aadhaar Act is one of the key partners, and the existing ecosystem which is there of third parties which are onboarded for enabling handshaking to happen, that needs to be securely audited multiple times to ensure they have their people who are not leaking this information, because a lot of times insiders in banks, in fintechs, they sell all of this information outside. So ensuring that there is no insider fraud involved, that's something which is the need of the hour.
All right. Pavan, Duggal also joining us on the show. Pavan, thank you for taking time out. In one line, is Aadhaar safe? I mean, this raises the questions of not just related to Aadhaar payment system, but a lot of people who have been constantly asking questions of the government with respect to how safe is Aadhaar as a system? Is UIDAI able to protect people and their information and their biometrics? To that question, after these scams are being reported day after day, would you still say Aadhaar is safe?
I may put it in this way, that the Aadhaar Central Identities Data Repository may be safe where our biometrics is located, but the Aadhaar ecosystem is a leaking, unsafe, insecure leaking system. And ever since everything is getting connected to Aadhaar, whether it's income tax, whether it's bank account, whether it's other details, its ecosystem that's come across around Aadhaar is completely unsafe for the very simple reason that we have not stipulated the minimum cyber security parameters that are essential for the purposes of safeguarding the Aadhaar ecosystem. And much that the amendments to talk of the Aadhaar ecosystem in 2019 law, we still not have been able to make it secure. So it's much more better for people not to use Aadhaar wherever possible in the Aadhaar ecosystem. Otherwise, in case if their Aadhaar tends to get compromised, there is a problem. They cannot even report to the police because any kind of an Aadhaar misuse only has to be reportable by the Unique Identification Authority of India, which is the UIDAI and no one else. So also you don't have effective remedies once your Aadhaar stands compromised or your biometrics stands compromised. So I think till such time India doesn't come up with dedicated national cyber security law, till such time the cyber security parameters for all stakeholders in the Aadhaar ecosystem are not effectively defined and effectively enforced and implemented, I think this system will continue to be a leaking system. And recently we had this recent case where even in the film festival website, we saw some leakages happening. So I think the thumb rule is, let's learn to be very, very safe and secure. Let's learn to use our Aadhaar with caution. Let's not hand up printouts of our Aadhaar copies to cellular operators.
Okay, so what do we,
banks.
Mr. Duggal, one of the questions that a lot of consumers, in fact, are often faced with, every time we are asked for an Aadhaar copy, let's say when we are making a hotel booking, when we are making a purchase, when we are making a travel booking, should we or should we not share our Aadhaar number?
We should, as a principle, never share our Aadhaar number. For the very simple reason that if your Aadhaar number is going to be compromised, you have no legal remedies under the available law, whether it's the Aadhaar Act 2016 or whether it's the Aadhaar Amendment Act 2019. Please go ahead and share your other identity details, maybe your driving license, maybe your voter ID, maybe your passport. They are much more safer than your Aadhaar because Aadhaar is the only unique identity which is connected with your biometrics. And if that's going to be misused, you'll have no effective remedy. So please, let's remember the Supreme Court of India has categorically said that Aadhaar is not mandatory. The government cannot force people to give up to their Aadhaar. So wherever possible, start using other means and other documentation of identity. And please don't land up giving your Aadhaars to any untoward persons.
All right, Pavan Duggal, thank you very much, sir, for taking time out, for joining us here on Newsline. Kanishk, coming back to you, would you agree with that assessment that there are leakages not just in the Aadhaar ecosystem, but also not enough remedy in the law if at all your personal data is compromised? So let's say my Aadhaar details are made available in the public and they're sold and they're compromised and the money is debited from my system. I do not have enough legal remedy?
See, the laws in the IT space are primarily weak right now. So tracking that, it takes a lot of time. The laws are there. The laws are there definitely, but primarily looking at how do you safeguard, get behind us financial criminal. That's one of the issues. So today getting a cyber fraud investigated from police, because there are so many frauds which are happening, it's really difficult to ensure that there are people who are tracking this case. So the best way is to primarily safeguard yourself and ensure that you enable multi-factor authentication, share minimum of your personal identifiable information. Those are things which are the need of the hour. But otherwise, you will have to go to the courts, put pressure on the police to investigate. The amount of cyber fraud which gets reported in this country today is increasing. Every day there are, at least in every tier 1 city, 5,000 to 10,000 cyber complaints. So for the police to investigate each of them, it becomes a really big concern. And a lot of these cyber criminals are operating from another state. So another key issue which comes is that how do you track a cyber criminal who is working from another state and you are basically getting duped in a different state? So two state police need to coordinate and work together, but it becomes too much of a task. A lot of times when the police from one state lands in another state, they find the cyber criminals have actually moved away and are no more there, because they get that information much well ahead in advance in terms of that there is the police is trying to tail them or they're trying to come after them. So it's become a more a national issue as it's impacting every citizen in this country. So what is required today is more like a central agency, like a Central Bureau of Investigation, enforcement directorate, which has the power to draw enforcement and track cyber criminals and not just become the activity of state police. And they could typically look at conducting raids for cyber actors who are causing tremendous amount of harm, not only to citizens, but also to financial systems of this country, impacting the GDP of the country.
All right. And in fact, we were just playing up those pointer graphics on our screen, those pointers as to how and what you should do. Let's play them again for the benefit of all those viewers tuning in right now. If you want to secure yourself, on your screens are the points the steps that you can take. Download the Aadhaar app. Register your Aadhaar number. Do those steps in order to ensure that you are in control of your Aadhaar details. You'll receive an OTP. Thereafter, you set a 4-digit digital PIN. And after doing that, you can access your Aadhaar profile. You can lock and unlock your biometrics. This will give you access to locking and unlocking your biometrics at your own disposal. You can confirm lock, you can unlock, you can once again enter 4-digit PIN. This will in fact safeguard you and your biometric details, and nobody else on the outside will be able to tamper with them. Before I let you go, Kanishk, one of the crucial, key important things that we often talk about Aadhaar is how much and to what extent can we control biometrics. From what we just read, the steps that an individual can take to lock their biometrics, is this full and final? If we are to do that, will it still will we still be vulnerable to our biometrics being abused and being shared and being tampered with? What can a common man do to protect themselves?
So one thing the common man can do is it can use masked Aadhaar, where somebody is trying to ask you whether the information is there. Like Mr. Duggal said, do not reveal the exact details of your Aadhaar. Show that you have an Aadhaar card. So don't allow people to take copies, generate unnecessary copies, or give away your Aadhaar card to any third person, right? That's typically there, right? Then if somebody is trying to do a eKYC, enable multi-factor authentication so that you have a OTP or a PIN or a KYC mechanism where you can verify. A lot of people do not enable multi-factor authentication. They just allow their Aadhaar copies to be distributed freely, right? That's one of the key things which could be there. And masking the Aadhaar is there. One key thing is the digital locker app today has Aadhaar interface built in. So you could typically use the digital locker app and show a digital Aadhaar instead of giving a physical copy of the Aadhaar card to multiple.
All right. Those, of course, are crucial, steps that you can take in order to protect your details. Thank you very much for taking time out. Thank you for joining us here on News 9. Kanishk, appreciate your time.
Welcome.